My suspicion is that most of the weight comes from increased fabric surface area. The fly comes lower down to the ground, so there's more fabric between the peak and the ground surface. The second area is in those 3D end panels. Because they are three-dimensional, there's a little bit more fabric, and of course the seam taping that goes into constructing those panels. And then the third area is that it is 3 inches wider, so there's a little bit of fabric associated with the side panels and the floor that come with having a wider tint. I think the Unbound offers marginally more storm resistance, and it's not because of the 3D end panels. I really don't think those 3D end panels provide a meaningful amount of structure that can increase wind stability, for example. What they do provide is good interior livable volume, and they do so without causing kinks and crumples and puckers in the side panels of the tent when you stake it out, which is a great thing. So where I think the stormworthiness of the Unbound comes into play is its lower fly. The fly can be pitched directly to the ground surface, and that eliminating guiline length makes the structure inherently more stable, so that when a wind gust comes and hits one of these large side panels, the peak, the trekking pole handle at both peaks do not move at all. And if you can minimize movement of the trekking pole peaks in the tent, you're going to have a very stable structure. Anytime you have cold temperatures and high humidity, which we've had for the last 3 weeks here in northern Colorado, so constant rain, temperatures in the 40s and 30s, those are conditions that are going to create condensation on any surface. And single wall tents, they all kind of suck at these kind of environmental conditions. And so if you look at a comparison of the Duplex and the Unbound, or for that matter, any single wall tent, and you're relying on ventilation at that point when condensation is such a high probability that it's going to occur, I think you're shooting for the moon, and you're going to be very disappointed. Of the big three that are on the market, which is the Duplex design, the Unbound design, and then the Gossamer Gear 1 and 2 designs, I would probably opt for the Unbound for its storm resistance. It has a lower, you can pitch it lower than the other two options, and that inherently makes it a far more stable structure in high winds. In addition, the cut and sew quality of the Unbound is outstanding, at least on the sample I have. And with that 3D side panel, being able to stake out the side panels without wrinkling just makes for a very nice design aesthetic. Probably not. The dipole comes with another level of storm resistance and interior livability. Of course, that's because of the end struts on the dipole and a few other unique features. But the cost of that is some pitch complexity. It does take a little bit longer to pitch and more practice to get it done properly. But some people are going to value simplicity and ease of setup, and in that case, an Unbound is going to beat out the dipole. I'm very fond of the rainbow zipper. I cook in my vestibule often, and having a zipper door, the mesh door, fall away and down out of the cooking area is a real bonus for me. With D-shaped doors, especially ones that are tied with cord like the Unbound, you've really got to secure that tie so it accidentally doesn't fall open while you're cooking in your vestibule. That's kind of a hazard. Well, you've got 2mm glow wire on the Duplex and 1.5mm Lawson iron wire on the Unbound. Lawson iron wire is also in the Durston X-Mids, and tarp tent uses Kelty Trip Tees or something very close to it still. My favorite guylines are from tarp tent. They are the most secure. They do not slip under enormous loads. My second favorite is the iron wire. So I do prefer the guylines in the Unbound over the Duplex. My only issue with glow wire in the Duplex is that it gets tangled up in the line locks and crosses over each other. So you need to disengage the line lock and re-engage the guy line, and that's my only irritation. It's pretty minor though. If you're going to have these tents tightened down in any kind of stormy weather, I think you have to up your tent stake game. Like, this is not These side panels are big, and they take a lot of force into the tent stakes on the tent. And so if you're using like ultralight skewer stakes or short stakes that are 5 or 6 inches long, especially in a forested environment like this where the soil already is kind of loose, you're missing out on an opportunity to create a stable storm-worthy shelter. And so if you know you're going to be pitching this above the tree line or otherwise in stormy conditions, or you otherwise want to pitch the tent really tight, which is good for quietness and condensation resistance, go to a bigger stake. I mean, take the penalty of an ounce or two in your stake kit, add more stakes and guylines and bigger stakes. And you know, something like an 8-inch V-channel DAC stake is going to give you a lot more holding power than any 6-inch stake on the market. I don't like either of the pockets on either of these tents. The ZPacks one is floppy, and the Hyperlite one causes the bathtub floor to collapse, so they both kind of irritate me. I like pockets that are fairly small and tight and don't cause deformation of the shape of the interior of the tent. The Duplex has 2 little rings at each peak. Those 2 rings are for the flex kit, the kit that allows you to add poles to make the Duplex freestanding. So they're not really intended to hold the force of guylines up there. But you can attach guylines to that peak, and that helps stabilize that peak in stormy conditions. The Unbound also has 2 places where you can attach guylines to the peak, and it adds a lot of stability as well. I highly recommend peak guylines if you're out in stormy conditions. Any Dyneema composite fabrics shelter should always be folded and then rolled and put into a stuff sack that's a little bit oversized, so you're not stressing out the fabric. The Duplex wins the door zipper game hands down. It gets away with only 1 zipper pull instead of 2, which is great, and has that custom metal clip at the base that allows you to clip both doors together to relieve stress off the zipper, and that zipper is going to last longer. Definitely the Unbound because of the interior livability caused by staking out the 3D side panels, and I'll take the 3 inches extra width any day. I know these are both 0.5 ounce per square yard Dyneema composite fabrics, but these are different fabrics. I don't know what the differences are specifically. I can't really figure it out because, you know, so much of this information is quote unquote proprietary. But you can see through the ZPacks Duplex more than you can the Hyperlite Unbound. And the Duplex is not going to provide the same level of privacy. Likewise, the Duplex is going to allow you to see more of the outside environment. Even though they're silhouettes and shadows, it feels more immersive, and the Unbound feels like more of an opaque fabric sheltering.